This episode is brought to you by Dashlane. Try Dashlane Premium free for 30 days at dashlane.com/infographics and never forget another password and keep all your online accounts secure. Many of you Globetrotters might have proudly shared a map of the world on social media, which shows all the countries you have visited. There are 193 United Nations recognized states, but that number can be 197 if you include countries with a somewhat embattled status. If you come from a developed nation, of course you have a better chance of seeing more of the world, but then if you look at the US State Department statistics, you can see that 64% of Americans don't even own a passport. Still, if you're from Europe, it's easy just popping over the border for most people. We're told that Queen Elizabeth II has visited 120 nations, but you can find news reports about people who claim to have visited every country in the world. That's some feat, and not easy, as many places are just very difficult to visit. We might add that it depends on what passport you're carrying, but some places are not exactly welcoming to many citizens of the world. If you don't believe us, ask a man called Henrik Jepsen, someone who, like a few others these days, says he has visited every country. So where did he have problems? Number 8. Syria. He mentions Syria. This is what he said: "Having a visa isn't always enough to get into the country. I flew into Beirut where my contact picked me up and took me to the border. The immigration officer wouldn't believe I was in Syria as a tourist, but eventually they decided to stamp me in." According to the website The Unusual Traveler, it's much easier to get into Syria now than it was just a couple of years back. Not long ago, it would take 10 to 12 weeks for your visa application, but these days it's not even close to that, although we're told it takes longer for Brits and Americans than most other nationalities. You might also be told that you must have a guide to go on a tour, but you can wing your trip too. It just might be harder to get the visa if you want to do it that way. You don't have too many options as to how to get in, as you can only fly in on small airlines from nearby countries, and many of its borders with other countries are not open. Your best bet is to travel from Beirut in Lebanon to the Syrian border. From what we can see, this is how most other Western travelers did it, so it's by no means easy, but not impossible. You might also find trouble if you have an Israel stamp in your passport, and if you're American. Well, maybe your jaunt in the Middle East might mean a red flag, but we can't be sure about that. Number 7. Yemen. Visiting Yemen can also cause you a great big headache, and at the same time, you won't find many governments telling their citizens it's safe to go. One guy that claims to have visited every place in the world, an Irishman called Johnny Ward, that started off his travels teaching English in Chiang Mai, Thailand, and then made a small fortune with his travel blog, said Yemen certainly was hard to get into. He wrote this: "Saudi have imposed a no-fly zone through Yemeni airspace. There are no commercial flights due to the war, visas are hard to come by, and taking a local fishing boat is treacherous due to the pirates, terrorists, war, and immigration from both the Omani coast and then again on the Yemeni side." He tried bribing officials at land borders, tried a cargo boat, and then a charter flight, but all those failed. That was in 2016. Is it any easier now? Not really, because you need a visa, and if you are American, you won't get a Yemeni visa in the US. The Canadian government tells us Yemeni authorities do not issue visas at port of entries. So you must apply, but as we said, some countries just won't issue you a visa. Well, some people do get lucky. We found this post on the Lonely Planet website. "I went to the Yemen border with Oman yesterday and paid $100 US for a visa. I hired a local guy to help me do this trip to Yemen. I'm an American and I've attempted 3 other trips to Yemen and all failed. It seems others have also crossed from Oman for $100. So again, not impossible, but very hard." Number 6. Nauru. This island country in the South Pacific Ocean is tiny and only gets about 150 to 200 tourists a year. There aren't many places to stay if you're a tourist, so you'll need to book well in advance, pay a lot of money, and you might even need a letter from a local sponsor. You'll also have to apply for a visa unless you're from a handful of nations. Don't think once you've arrived on the one airline that you'll just be able to get a taxi. There is very little public transport or infrastructure for that matter. What we're trying to say is this trip takes a lot of planning, months before you go, will cost you an arm and a leg, but will likely be worth all the cost and hassle. Number 5. Eritrea. We're told visiting this Northeast African country is not easy, as it's not always welcoming to foreigners. You'll need a visa, and from what we can see online, many people just get refused. Foreign journalists are certainly not always given the red carpet, as politically the country is quite secretive. If you do get the visa, you'll need more permits to visit anywhere outside of the capital. One permit for each place or site, which could mean applying for tons of permits. Sometimes called the North Korea of Africa, the website The Unusual Traveler says it has to be in the top 5 for the hardest places to get into in the world. The website says what others said, in that it's very likely you'll be refused the visa on your application. But the writer got in, saying, "I found Eritrea to be the most fascinating and underrated country in all of Africa." The visa application itself can take months, as you'll have to be approved by the government in Eritrea. The good news is that there are some flights right in from a number of nations, but the bad news is that if you don't have those permits, you won't be getting on any public transportation that can take you outside of the capital. While visiting Eritrea, you'll experience a bureaucratic permit nightmare like nowhere else in the world, said one writer. Number 4. Libya. Recent information posted online tells us getting a visa to Libya is incredibly difficult too, and if you're not invited to do business or on some kind of diplomatic mission, there is every chance your visa will not be issued. If you're an American, you can get a tourist visa, but we're told that if you don't have a sponsor or a letter from someone with some clout inside of Libya, you're almost guaranteed to fail. Tourist visas are often rejected at all embassies without being a part of a tour or applied for on behalf of a Libyan tour operator, said one travel website. Another travel blogger said the same thing, but he also said that he found a travel company inside the country that would help him get his visa. The only problem with that is you'll have to go everywhere with that company to only the places on the tour, and it will cost you a lot of money. The good news is that flying in isn't much of a problem, if indeed you are allowed in. Number 3. Saudi Arabia. This is a place that has made some huge changes in the last few years, in that Saudi Arabia was not long ago pretty much closed to anyone just wanting to visit, not on some kind of business. That has changed, but we should still say that you'll only be issued a tourist visa for certain events inside the country. Lots of expats work in the nation, but you still won't find many tourists just going anywhere they want in Saudi. You might also do well to remember to follow local laws, lest a bottle of beer leads you to your backside being flogged. We should also add that if you're a woman under 25, it might be hard or impossible to get a visa if you're not going with a husband or at least a male chaperone. Number 2. South Sudan. We found a journalist online who said that getting a tourist visa for this place is very hard. He got a press visa and so was lucky, but he needed a letter from an employer inside the country. As a visitor, you might get yourself a visa if you also have a letter from someone inside, but it seems without an invite, you might have problems. We're not sure if this is an exaggeration, but one well-known travel website said that this area of the world is so violent that visiting is incredibly stupid. U.S. Embassy staff travel in armored vehicles and never go out on the streets alone. Just about all the governments of developed nations say just don't go here, and we can find hardly any information written by people who have been there. One guy called Ramblin' Randy did just that, writing on his blog, "I was shocked to see 3 or 4 gringos and a couple Asians on my flight to Juba. What were they going to South Sudan for?" He said he'd not been able to find a guide or a fixer before going, but was told by a hotel manager that he would be taken care of once he arrived. He managed to see a lot of things, but he was always with a local person, and it sounds like he wouldn't have done much alone. It seems the country will give you a visa if travel plans are booked ahead, but once there, you best follow some rules, and those include not taking photographs. Number 1. North Korea. This is the last place on our list, but believe it or not, it's actually not that hard to visit compared to some of the places on the list, and it's by no means dangerous if you don't break any laws. We've included it only because everyone is fascinated with this country, and you probably want to know how to get inside it. So you can get in, but there are catches, lots of catches. First of all, you'll have to book your trip through a travel company that works with the North Korean Tourism Ministry. Okay, step 1 done. What this means is that your entire trip will be a tour, and don't think you can just say see ya to your guides and go explore for yourself. You'll probably have 2 of these guides with you throughout your trip. The good news is that your visa will probably be issued, but it might take anywhere from 1 week to 6 weeks. As the website World Nomads tells us, if you choose not to travel with a tour group, you will still need the services of a local guide and won't be able to leave your hotel, sightsee, or travel on public transport without one. Defying these regulations will result in punishment for you and your guide. The good news is that the world's most secretive nation will let you surf the net, take photos, make phone calls. The bad news is the US just extended a ban on its citizens visiting the country. Most people, however, can get the visa, go to China, and then on to North Korea. Some of the hardest countries to visit also make it really hard to browse the web freely. Luckily, Dashlane and its powerful but easy-to-use VPN has your back. Dashlane is the one and only tool you need to keep you safe online, and their multi-country VPN lets you browse safely and privately, no matter where you are, across any device. Don't leave yourself vulnerable to digital snooping or malicious hackers. Give Dashlane and its features-packed VPN a try today. We love using Dashlane because not only does it act as a best-in-class VPN, it will send you breach alerts for when one of your online accounts is compromised by a hack. Head on over to www.dashlane.com/infographics for a free 30-day trial. And if you use the coupon code INFOGRAPHICS, you can get 10% off a premium subscription today. Have you been to any of the places we've talked about today? To which place would you like to go? Can you think of a harder country to visit? Tell us in the comments. Also, be sure to check out our other show, Smallest Country in the World. Thanks for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you next time.